Good evening, everyone. We are going to call the regular City Commission meeting for the City of Deltona for Monday, June 21st, 2021 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Villa-Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner King. Here. Commissioner McCool.
Here.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Sosa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
Here.
Mayor Hersberg.
Here. And now we're going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor Bradford.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight for the invocation, we're going to have Nick Pisa. He will come up, and then we're going to be blessed with David Castro. And then I'm going to ask Mr. King, after we all rise, to assist when Nick's done with the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody rise, please.
The Pledge of Allegiance, right? And I'll do the invocation.
Yes.
That's all good. That's good.
Can I get it backwards?
Hey, she's a rookie. We've got to give her a break. It's all good. Would you bow your heads with me in prayer, please? Father, we thank you for the privilege we have to be here tonight in this building, in this place, in this city. And Lord, we just invoke your presence here right now, Lord God, that we might decrease and you might increase in every way. Here tonight, Father God, to discuss situations in our city, discuss new opportunities, to discuss things that are already happening. But Lord God, we're here to discuss them. We're here to seek your guidance along the way, with you giving us the insight and understanding and your wisdom to use it. Not man's wisdom, for man's greatest wisdom is as foolishness to you. We'll accept your wisdom, Lord. Empower us through your Holy Spirit to do exactly that tonight. Set apart our commission, Father God, each and every one of them for this tonight, or our mayor, our vice mayor, as well as with all our city officials here tonight. We ask you to set them apart so that they may make good decisions tonight, Father God, on behalf of the citizens here in the city of Deltona, this beautiful city. Lord, we're thankful for that, with the privilege that we have to be here and for all that you've given us here. Lord, we just praise you and thank you for this day and look forward to this evening and all that you're going to accomplish through each one of us. We'll give the glory to you, Father, and the praise as we do this all in the matchless name of our Savior and Lord, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
He gets better all the time.
That was amazing. So we're going to go ahead and start with our business meeting. Item number 4 is approval of minutes in the agenda. We don't have any this evening. Item number 5, presentations, awards, and reports. We also have none this evening. So we'll move right into item number 6, ordinances and public hearings. So we have item number 6A. A public hearing is a resolution number 2021-27 establishing the preliminary annual rate resolution street lighting services for fiscal year 2021-2022.
Madam Mayor, the city code requires that on an annual basis that we reaffirm the streetlight districts. So this is what's before you, and we're recommending approval.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments for the city manager on this rate resolution? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public that wanted to speak for this item? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of this item. Now we need a motion and a second, please. Vice Mayor?
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-27. The acting city manager has the authority to correct Scrivener errors and the like.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Mayor Hertzberg. May we vote, please? Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to the next item, which is going to be B. It's a public hearing, resolution number 2021-30, establishing the preliminary annual rate of assessment for solid waste services for fiscal year 2021-2022. Mr. Peters?
Madam Mayor, this is the rate for the solid waste. The current rate is $202.80 per equivalent residential unit, and the proposed rate remains unchanged at $202.80, and we are recommending that you all approve this.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the manager? Any members of the public that have signed up to speak on this item? Then we'll close the public comment portion of this item. And Vice Mayor Bradford.
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-30, and the acting city manager has the authority to correct Scrivener errors and the like.
Second.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, who seconded? Commissioner Sosa? Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Commissioner Sosa. May we vote, please? Someone not voted? Who? Commissioner McCool? Are you lit up, Commissioner McCool? Is it green or red? It went away? Stand by. Technical difficulties.
Can we have some Jeopardy music, please? Do, 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 do.
It's Final Jeopardy. Okay, motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to item C, which is a resolution number 2021-29, establishing the preliminary annual rate resolution for the Lake McGarry Aquatic Weed Control Services for fiscal year 2021-2022. Mr. Peters.
Madam Mayor, Resolution 2021-29 is setting a rate of $134.15 per assessed parcel. This is unchanged from the current amount. This particular fee is for aquatic treatment of Lake McGarry, which several years ago had a toxic weed situation, and so we have this annual program to provide weed control for that area. We're recommending you approve the resolution.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, commissioners, for the manager? Seeing none, is anyone in the public? Nothing. Closing the public comment portion of this item. We need a motion and a second. Vice Mayor?
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-29. The acting city manager has the authority to correct Scrivener errors and the like.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Commissioner Ramos. May we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. Now we will move on to item D, public hearing, which is resolution number 2021-28, establishing the preliminary annual rate resolution for stormwater services for fiscal year 2021-2022. Mr. Peters.
Yes, ma'am. This particular resolution is to establish an annual rate of $128 per equivalent residential unit for the purposes of stormwater. We have reviewed as part of the workshop last week, we reviewed the stormwater project, and that was based on several different rates, but it was the consensus, I believe, to stay at $128 per ERU, and that is what we're recommending in this resolution.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions for the manager? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that wanted to speak for this? Then we'll close the public portion of this meeting, and we need a motion and a second. Vice Mayor?
I move to adopt resolution number 2021-28. The acting city manager has the authority to correct Scrivener errors and the like.
Second.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Commissioner McCool, correct? Yes, ma'am. May we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to the next item. Item E is ordinance number 03-2021, amending and revising the provisions of Chapter 46, Article 11, Firefighters Pension Plan of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Deltona by amending Section 46-29, Finances and Funding Management, amending Section 46-31, Contributions, amending Section 46-33, Benefit Amounts and Eligibility, amending Section 46-34, Pre-Retirement Death, amending Section 46-35, Disability, amending Section 46-44, Minimum Distribution of Benefits, providing for the compliance with Chapter 2019-21, Law of Florida, providing for the compliance with the Secure Act, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. Mr. Peters.
Madam Mayor, as we discussed previously, this is to shore up the pension program in accordance with the Secure Act, and the firefighters will be paying a larger percentage than in the past so that we can make the pension fund for the firefighters more secure for the future, and we're recommending approval.
Okay, this is second and final reading, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, any questions for the manager? Seeing none, do we have anyone in the public that wanted to speak on this item? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. And Vice Mayor Bradford.
I hereby move to adopt ordinance number 03-2021 at this second and final hearing. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of Scrivener errors and the like.
Second.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Commissioner Avila Vasquez, correct? No? Commissioner McCool? Sorry. May we vote, please? Oh, yes, read the ordinance, I'm sorry.
Ordinance number 03-2021, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deltona, Florida, by amending and revising the provisions of Chapter 46, Article 2, Firefighter Pension Plan of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Deltona by amending Section 46-29, Finances and Fund Management, amending Section 46-31, Contributions, amending Section 46-33, Benefit Amounts and Eligibility, amending Section 46-34, Pre-Retirement Death, amending Section 46-35, Disability, amending Section 46-44, Minimum Contribution of Benefits, providing for compliance with Chapter 2019-21 Laws of Florida, providing for compliance with the Secure Act, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
May we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. Now we'll move to item F, which is also a public hearing, ordinance number 02-2021, rezoning 129.02 acres from industrial to industrial planned unit development at first reading. Mr. Paradise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ron Paradise, Plan Development Services for the record. This is a rezoning request. It's quasi-judicial hearing, and we need to go through all the quasi-judicial hearing ceremony, including ex parte disclosure. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Seagal George.
Okay, we're back with a quasi-judicial hearing. So basically what we need to do is I will swear in everyone who needs to offer testimony. The mayor will ask each of you to disclose any ex parte communications that you may have, including site visit. And then Ron will then proceed with his staff report and the applicant, and, you know, we've been through this. If anybody has any questions, just feel free to ask. So anybody who wishes to give testimony on this matter, will you please stand and raise your right hand? Okay, do you swear that the testimony you're going to give to the city commission this evening will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Now we'll go ahead and go down the ex parte communications. We'll go alphabetically. Joyce or Elizabeth, could you go down the roll alphabetically for ex parte communications?
Commissioner Billy Vasquez.
I have not had any communications with any lawyer or anyone affiliated with this rezoning other than Mr. Peters during our meeting. I do drive through there, meaning that it's a main road and a connection to a lot of destinations that I have to go to.
Commissioner King.
I've had no communication with anyone except in my meetings with acting city manager John Peters.
Commissioner McCool.
I have had no ex parte communication.
Commissioner Ramos.
I've had no ex parte communication except with Mr. Peters.
Commissioner Sosa.
I've only driven by the site.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
I've been copied on the emails from Frank DeMarce, the owner of the property, to staff.
Mayor Hersberg.
I have had no ex parte communication regarding this item aside from driving by on the road during my normal activities. So we've gone through the ex parte communication. Mr. Paradise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to try and go through and be brief on this presentation, kind of hit some of the salient points. It is a pretty significant project. It involves 129 acres, request to rezone from industrial to industrial plan unit development. This project is also known as Portland Industrial Park. The 129-acre site has frontage on North Normandy Boulevard and is located across the street and east of the Amazon Fulfillment Center. It's also located generally south of the Epic Movie Theater. This property is situated within an area of the city known as the Activity Center. And the Activity Center for decades, started first by the county and carried through by the city, has been planned to be an area of intense development featuring a synergistic pattern of service and employment-oriented uses associated with the Interstate 472 interchange. The uses proposed within the Portland Industrial Park are mostly distribution and industrial-oriented. There may be an option for limited service-type commercial opportunities within the Portland Industrial Park use. There is anticipation at build-out the project will yield over 2 million square feet of leasable area. This is a project of significant magnitude. If y'all remember, the Amazon Fulfillment Center is has about a 1 million square foot footprint, okay? The level of intensity on this project is not controlled by square footage, but by a transportation trip cap. Basically, when it reaches a threshold of 5,407 trips or the build-out, doesn't yield that, that will be the cap on the intensity of the project. This project, rezoning to plan unit development, is associated with a written development agreement and a master development plan schematic that kind of gives a general overview of how the site may be developed in the future. The development agreement is part of your all's agenda package. As you all know, it's quite detailed and outlines standards ranging from allowed uses to how stormwater will be managed on the property. As far as transportation and traffic management associated with the 5,407 trips, the DA, the development agreement, has very detailed circulation and access management requirements. Just to be clear, of those 5,400 trips, this is an industrial use, distribution oriented. There's projected that 848 of those trips will be heavy trucks, 18-wheelers. The goal of the development agreement access and circulation is to ensure truck traffic uses the I-4 State Road 472 interchange, and truck traffic is not routed down the North Normandy Boulevard towards the Saxon Boulevard interchange. This was a similar truck management strategy when the city discussed and approved the Project Normandy, which would become the Amazon Fulfillment Center. Was there misguided truck traffic associated with Amazon? Yeah, we understand that. But the city has worked in numerous ways to better manage that truck traffic and minimize the usage of truck traffic going down the North Normandy Boulevard corridor. What the city's done is employed techniques including signage, engaged or help Amazon engage in driver education. And probably the most effective was changing the Google Maps algorithm that would direct the traffic to the Amazon Fulfillment Center through the SR 472 I-4 interchange. There will need to be roadway improvements to support the Portland Industrial Park and to accommodate future growth. Accommodation of future growth in traffic planning parlance is known as background traffic. A notable improvement will be a 4-lane expansion of North Normandy Boulevard between Energy Avenue to the north and to the south to South Street. There will also be other traffic improvements discussed by the county through the county's proportionate fair share. By the way, the project's fair share for the North Normandy improvement is over $880,000 to help facilitate that lane mile addition. On May 19, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend the City Commission adopt the rezoning request. The board also directed staff to continue to work with the applicant to allow for another development option. We did include some changes to the development agreement and to incorporate 2 development options within the PUD request, and that was included in your all's package. However, their talks had continued with the applicant, and there was some slight changes to the development agreement language that did not make the agenda. And I'll just kind of, they involved to limiting option 2 to only 1 out parcel, and to clarify when and how the applicant would choose which development scenario to develop under. The intent was to, make it clear that you can only develop under option 1 or under option 2, couldn't toggle between the 2. And finally, there was some language added to provide an option for regional stormwater management techniques. This is the first hearing. There will be a second hearing, and for the agenda item, that new added language will be included. And like I said, it is not very extensive at all. With that being said, the agenda item contains several alternatives: approve or deny. I'm not going to go into the rationale for each of those, but I will say staff does recommend the city adopt ordinance 02-2021 at first reading and schedule, and is requesting a second and final hearing be scheduled for July 19th, 2021, and we would appreciate you all directing us to include that updated language as part of the agenda item. I'd be happy to field any questions you all may have with regard to this proposal.
Thank you, Ron. Commissioner McCool, you are on the board.
Yes. First question is, I wanted to ask about how many jobs are we talking about here? I know it says some, but it never gives us an approximation. How many jobs here are we talking about?
I don't know how many jobs. We do not have an indication of end users for this project. You know, I think Amazon employs, what, 1,500 people? Yeah, I'm getting a nod of acknowledgement. I think it's more than that. I think you can kind of use that as kind of a benchmark for, you know, well, you got a 1 million square foot building. Actually, it's 1.4 million with an upper mezzanine. And that's 1,500 plus jobs. 1,000. Thank you. 1,000 jobs, so you can kind of say, well, you got 2 million square feet, so we're probably going to look at 2,000 jobs. You know, but it's difficult to quantify that, and we don't have a good handle, like I said, on the end users or anything like that.
Okay. Second of all, I wanted to visit just for a moment what we talked about here. I know that we've worked on the heavy truck access, okay, and that it was a thing. Normandy, as it is down towards the Saxon area, is not made for, you know, that traffic. And so I just want to be clear, because we said that we had handled this when Amazon came in. And I know from personal experience that when you have a 53-footer going down that road on a Sunday morning and you're going through those hairpin turns, I was run off the road. So I just want to make sure that we are talking about that. We're talking about that at the logistics level. When they come in, they're, you know, if this is going to be heavy truck, there are ways on paperwork to establish that to begin with, and I want to make sure that that's done. I want to make sure, I like that they're talking about the LPRs here, but it's an issue, the wear and tear on our roads, and I want to make sure that we have ample signage on I-4, that we have those permissions, I guess, because we've talked about this, signage on I-4. I know that we've worked on the Google algorithm, but that's a problem. So I just want to make sure that that's taken care of.
Yeah, we have engaged FDOT with, you know, increasing signage on Interstate 4.
Okay, and we talked to the developer also about, have we talked about best green practices in this space also? I mean, because we're talking about moving our city forward, being more green, being more better environmental stewards, so have we talked about that with the developer on this project?
We have not broached, you know, green building techniques or anything of that such. You know, we anticipate this will be, you know, a kind of it's going to be a pretty intensive development. Mm-hmm. The impervious surface ratios are going to be high. You know, we have talked about regional stormwater solutions for roadway improvements, you know, that are planned, you know, to kind of provide more storage within a smaller area. Obviously, they will be required to have landscaping and whatnot in accordance with the code and so forth. But you know, like I said, it's going to be an intensive urban type of development.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that. And my point is that I am just making the public ask, because I have I have residents that I answer to. This is a good thing, coming to Deltona, and here's the thing. I feel it incumbent for all of our new development for us to be leading in this area. We should be talking about it. We should be having these conversations. I don't think it's a big ask. I think that we as a city give a lot. We have a lot to offer, right, to build in. And I think in return that we need to think long-term. We're building long-term, and we need to be more environmentally conscious from yesterday. We need to talk about that in the development agreements when we are building in our, and I know that we have to address through ordinance also.
Right.
But this is a really great opportunity for us to start being progressive like we want to be. If we're a city moving forward and we're a city on the move, I think these are conversations that have to be included, especially when you're talking about something as big, with this big of an environmental impact. So I would like, without directing staff, I would like for us to talk when we're talking about socially conscious things and to talk about the environmental impact and how we are being innovative when we're building in Deltona. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, I just have a couple quick questions. For the 4-lane additions from Energy down to
South Street?
South Street, is that going to be completed during the construction, or will that come down the road?
It probably will come down the road, but it needs to, be closely linked to that construction schedule, so those improvements are there to serve the need that they'll create.
Okay. And that's a $4 million project, the 4-lane that at this time.
That is the estimate, yes, sir.
Okay, and their fair share is going to be $878,000?
889,000 and some change.
Yeah, 344, there it is. Now, you said the county has a fair share. How much is the county going to add to this so that, because otherwise the city's going to put in the other $3 million?
Yeah, the city's going to put in the other $3 million. None of the county proportionate fair share will be applied to city roadways. As a matter of fact, we anticipate that the county's proportionate fair share is probably a good portion of it's going to find its way on the Veterans Memorial Parkway over on the west side of the interstate.
Okay, and on that 889,000 and change, that's going to be given back to the developer in the form of impact credits?
Yeah, we will grant impact fee credits. Now, I think it's important to keep in mind that we may not get one lump sum of $889,000. It may come in incrementally as projects come online within the industrial subdivision. So the city would be confronted with having to front some money there. That can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. The good thing about it is that, there will be an escalator clause associated with any impact fee arrangements that if the city's impact fee schedule goes up, well, the fair share could be more.
And they would be responsible, that'll be in the contract, that they would be responsible for more. Okay. Now, this property, is it gonna abut next to the Rhode Island improvements that we look to spend $10 million on as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the developer is going to grant us a 70-foot right-of-way along the southern margin of their property, and combined with an existing 30-foot platted right-of-way, we'll have 100 feet along the southern terminus of their property. Now, they don't have control of the land located to the east and to the north, but yeah, they are going to certainly help out along those lines.
Okay. And on the Rhode Island, are we looking to 2-lane that or 4-lane that?
Probably initially it'll be a 2-lane facility with obviously enough right-of-way to accommodate extra lane miles as we need it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, no more questions from the commission. We'll go ahead and have the applicant, if they're here, speak, please.
Good evening. Jason Lewis, Kimley Horn Associates, 116 South Kentucky Avenue, Lakeland, Florida. With me as well, I have James Taylor, who's our traffic engineer on the project, as well as Kate Bader, civil engineer. Really don't have much to add. Staff did a great job. Ron did a great job kind of explaining the project. Staff's been great to work with through this entire process to get to the point where we're at today. And looking forward to moving forward on the project. Be more than happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant? No questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open this public comment portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wanted to speak on this item?
Albert Bryant, please.
Thank you.
Albert Bryan, Deltona. You know, I watched this during the zoning and planning commission or board, and I sat there very quietly during all that, listened to it all. And some of the questions that were raised were some of the questions that were similar here. What I don't understand is, let me think about this. The Amazon was 1.5 million square feet, if I remember right. And they gave us almost $6 million in road improvements. I understand this one's close to 2 million square feet, but we're only getting $800,000 in road improvements? Interesting, but our city manager wants us to spend $10 million that will eventually help this gentleman on a Rhode Island extension. But let's see here, $4 million for four-laning Normandy, but he's only paying $800,000 for that? Really? When it's actually going to benefit him and his customers who rent from him more than 90% of any residents. Does that seem a little awkward to anybody here? It does to me, because if I'm doing my math right, $10 million for Rhode Island, $3 million to widen Normandy, that seems like the city's putting out $14 million almost to help a business. And yet our residents can't even get any rollback rate on our taxes. Oh, that's right, because we're spending all of our surplus almost on these roads. I get it, I really do, even though it really doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm not bashing this because he's bringing jobs in, because I was all for Amazon, except for, here again, the fair share side of this. Where's the fair share? I don't see any fair share. It sounds to me like somebody's taking a screwdriver and putting a 10-inch Phillips head screw on that thing and screwing it in my back. It really does. Because $14 million almost we're going to spend on 2 roads. Who's it going to benefit? Oh, that's right, commercial businesses. Oh, and then didn't Mr. Paradise say that we were going to give them impact fee, help out? Oh, that's right. Well, does that really make sense? We're going way out of our way to help this business actually become a business, because he's going to have to rent those buildings to somebody. So he's going to have the benefit of saying our city went out of our way to screw our citizens to bring in this business for $15 an hour jobs. I don't know if that really makes any good sense to me or not. I like the Amazon deal a lot better, where we got $6 million worth of road improvements. And how much did this city actually put out for that $6 million? I don't remember. For some reason, I don't think we put out that much for that $6 million improvements. So where's the balance in this? He's getting more square footage for his business because he's buying this land and you're approving it, but we're getting a lot less back in return.
Thank you, sir.
Richard Bell, please.
First of all, Amazon does not employ 1,000 people. Second of all, I live off of Elkham Boulevard, and there is definitely 3 times as many trucks now as there was in the past. One light the other day, 3 lights at the corner right down here, Providence and Elkham, 3 lights. I was sitting in traffic, I was laughing. And I just said to myself, we got a great commission and mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Close the public comments, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Mr. Paradise? Any further comments?
Yes, I'd like to clarify the fair share arrangement. Yeah, Amazon was about 6 million. This project's about 6 million, okay? Amazon fair share for the city was $600,000, and that went to the North Normandy corridor north of Energy Avenue, okay? A lot of those improvements, turn lanes and whatnot, that was done on county roads using county proportionate fair share arrangements. In this case, the $889,000, that's just for city fair share. That does not include the county.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paradise. Okay, commissioners, we have heard from the applicant, from staff. Any other questions or comments? If not, we will go ahead and, let's see, Vice Mayor Bradford.
I hereby move to approve ordinance 02-2021 rezoning of 129.02 acres from industrial to industrial plan unit development at first reading and schedule a second and final adoption hearing for July 19, 2021, based on the following. Portland Industrial Week will create jobs within the city and help address the job housing imbalance. Most jobs created will be distribution and manufacturing, which are higher paying than the most service sector jobs. Distribution and manufacturing jobs are more likely to have benefits like healthcare coverage. Portland Industrial, utilizing Amazon as a comparable, would generate approximately $650,000 per year in taxes at present millage rates. The project can be served by public facilities like roadways, utilizing existing capacity or making fair share payments. Portland Industrial Park is located on land long planned for intensive uses and employment-oriented development, is situated in an area of existing and planned commercial industrial development, and is located well away from residential neighborhoods. The project is consistent with the economic development goals. The Portland Industrial Park IPUD is consistent with the city comprehensive plan. The acting city manager has the authority to make correction of scrivener errors and the like.
Second.
Would you like me to read the ordinance?
Yes, in just a second.
All right.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, seconded by Commissioner Ramos. Marshall, will you please read the ordinance?
Thank you. Ordinance number 0220-2021, an ordinance of the City of Deltona, Florida, amending the official zoning map to rezone plus or minus 129.02 acres of land generally located on the east side of Normandy Boulevard and south of Graves Avenue from City of Deltona Industrial I to Industrial Plan Unit Development IPUD, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Before we go any further, Mr. Paradise, what language did you want in this motion in terms of amending the option 1, option 2? I know, I'm minor blank as well.
Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I'd like to I'd like the city commission direction on limiting option 2 to 1 out parcel. Adding language to determine which option is going to be used, and then adding language to look for regional stormwater solutions to management of stormwater.
I'm sorry, Ron, those documents don't come up very well.
Yeah, we don't
So
have
I'm going to
anything.
ask what, obviously this is something with
Here
staff.
we
I
are.
mean, if you could help recommend. One of them popped up, but then one of them went dead.
I'm sorry
No,
about that.
mine were blank the whole entire time. Yeah, now they're back.
boy.
They're here.
You got the bottom one?
Yeah, the box came in for the second one.
Oh, boy.
What is staff's recommendation on this and why?
The staff's recommendation is to approve. Are you asking for the entire project?
No, the
Options.
The
Oh, the
option.
options.
Yeah, between option 1 and option 2, and why, since we can't really see them.
Yeah, the intent is to provide them the ability to have the option 2, which would allow for larger end users and less out parcels, and option 1 will allow for more out parcels and, just a few smaller, larger end users, just based on the amount of the aerial acreage. Also, we just want to make sure that when they make a decision on which option to choose, that it can be implemented, and there's no confusion in the future, and there's no toggling between option 1 and option 2. And then the stormwater management is just to reinforce, we're looking for more regional solutions to the management of stormwater.
Marcia, what kind of language do you recommend the vice mayor amend her motion to include?
I would just amend to include what Ron has additionally added at the mic that Joyce and Liz should be able to include to it. Can you do that?
Yeah, you don't expect me to remember that, right?
Okay, then how about if we just state that
With staff's recommendation?
staff's recommendation and all of this will be included in the
Yes.
item in July.
Okay.
So
Okay, then
you'll
I
have
move to
that in
amend it.
advance.
Okay, then I move to amend my motion to include staff's recommendations
To be included in July.
to be included in the
Final
July
reading.
meeting.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you for
okay
the
with that?
clarification. I appreciate
Okay.
that immensely. So we can, get this thing, put a bow on it.
Okay. All right, so the vice mayor has amended her motion. The second was done by Commissioner Ramos. He has agreed to that. We have read the ordinance. May we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. We will see you in July.
Ron, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
When are they looking at, and when this passes, if this passes, when would they be looking at a possible start or completion? Do they have any timeline?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to old business. On old business, we have item 7A, a request to re-rank the applicants for the Charter Review Committee and appoint 5 members and 2 alternate members. As you recall, last meeting, we first of all had a motion to extend the application timeframe, and that passed. And then we went ahead, at the end of the meeting, we brought this item back, and we went ahead and eliminated that item, and we decided to go ahead and rank with the applicants that were there, the 10 applicants that were given and had turned it in by the deadline of May 31st. Since then, 2 things have occurred. One, there was an error in calculation when this was done kind of at the end of the night, hurriedly. And number 2, an 11th application was found at, I believe, at the clerk's office. That should have been included. That was properly put in, and that was Ms. Urelis Navas. And so her application is included. The other application, Mr. Doug McDonald, had said that he applied, emailed this to us after, and said that he handed the application to a staff member. The staff member does not have any cannot recall that she ever took that application. The clerk's office has no record of Mr. McDonald's application at all. And as I said, the staff member that he said he gave that application to completely does not have it and does not have that application, and there is no application. So we also have an email that came out today for 3 more applications. And Mr. Peters also replied to that email that the applications were closed May 31st, with the only new application put in for Ms. Urelis Navas because her application was found and was properly put in before May 31st. So it is Mr. Peters, correct, sir? Your recommendation?
My recommendation, Madam Mayor, is that we select from 11 applications, the 10 that were originally voted on with the addition of Ms. Navas. As you just said, her application was turned in. It was unfortunately placed in a separate pile. Originally, we were saying 12. Mr. McDonald had made an assertion that he applied before the 31st, that he gave his application to a particular staff person. We have subsequently determined from that staff person that she did not receive such an application. And Mr. McDonald filed an application after the 31st of May, so we're not recommending we proceed with that.
Okay, Commissioners, so that would go ahead and bring us to the 11 applications that we have. Phyllis Allen, Jeffrey C. Brower, Albert Bryant, Chris Novick, Pat Northey, Marisol Ortiz Morales, Thomas Philpott, Dr. Carolyn Shine, Karen Tewksbury, Brandy White, and Urelis Navas. So you have the ranking sheets.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Can I remind everyone that your top choice will be 1, and you will add 1 number for everyone down to your 11th choice, getting a score of 11. When we tally this, the 5 people with the lowest aggregate score will be your top 5 selection. Then the next 2 lowest scores would be your alternates.
And Commissioners, please make sure you sign this ranking sheet. Mine kept popping back to the other item.
Madam Mayor?
Liz, do you have all the application, or all the ranking sheets? Yes, Mayor. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call a 10-minute recess to go ahead and give Liz and Joyce time to tabulate. So we are adjourned for 10 minutes. Is that Mr. Okay, commissioners, our 10-minute adjournment is up. I will reconvene the meeting. And we have our totals for charter review. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and read off the people that are on the Charter Review Committee, and then I'll read off the alternates. And we had actually a three-way tie for alternates. So commissioners, since they all got the exact same score, we have the option of just going ahead with 3 alternates. So on the Charter Review, I'm just reading this alphabetically: Phyllis Allen, Albert Bryant, Pat Northey, Thomas Philpott, Brandy White. Alternates, all scoring 43. Jeffrey Brower, Chris Nobick, Dr. Carolyn Shine would be our alternates. So, in order to formalize this, we need a motion and a second if the commission is willing to just go ahead with the 3 alternates. And if not, we would have to revote those 3. So we need a motion for what the commission wishes.
Mayor?
Wait, hold on, I'm sorry. Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only concern is that I know we had a motion of 5 with 2 alternates. That's it. I'm not sure if we need to amend that or not.
Marcia, can we just change the motion? Because we haven't done a motion yet. This is only the ranking.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, does anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the new vote, are we going to be confronted by the prior people that were selected for the board and are not part of the board? Is that going to be an issue going forward with this new election?
Do you want? I mean, from a legal standpoint, no. I mean, you had a problem, you had to redo it, you've redone it, and, I mean, I don't see that there's any, it rests with the commission, with regards to who is on this board, who is a member, who is an alternate. And so all you've done is, you've redone it to fix the previous problem. So no, I don't think so.
Okay,
Madam
thank you.
Mayor, if I can make a suggestion here.
Yes.
Not that I hope this happens, but right now we have a tie for alternates. If
Yes.
a person were to drop off, I have no way of determining which of the 3 should be next. So I think you all are going to need to break the tie on the 3 alternates so that we know which order they would replace somebody of the original 5.
So then you want to go ahead and re-vote on the 3 alternates?
That would be my recommendation, 1, 2, and 3, and tally them up again.
Okay, so can we vote on the 5 permanent people? I would prefer to get that done first.
Correct.
And then give Joyce some time to re-vote on the 3 alternates that tied, to go ahead and do a quick sheet. So we need a motion to accept the following people, again, in alphabetical order, to be the 5 members of the Charter Review Committee: Phyllis Allen, Albert Bryant, Pat Northey, Thomas Philpott, Brandy White. I'm going to pass the gavel to the Vice Mayor, and I will make a motion. Oh, you got one, right? Or are you on there? Sorry, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I move to approve the following, oops, you got the list?
Yes, the ones in yellow.
I move to
Color-coded.
approve the 5 newly ranked members of the Charter Plan Review Committee: Phyllis Allen, Albert Bryan, Pat Norty, Thomas Philpott, and Brandy White.
Second.
The acting city manager has authority to correct scrivener errors and the like.
Second. Okay. So Vice Mayor has properly made the motion for the 5 permanent members of the Charter Review, seconded by the mayor. Any comments from the general public on this item? Okay, may we vote on the 5 members, please? Motion passes 7-0. Now we will need to re-vote on the 3 alternates. Here, Liz. Joyce, how long do you need? Okay.
So the 2 alternates are Jeffrey Brower and Chris Novick.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept the, wait a second. Okay, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's Mr. Brower and Mr. Novick? Okay.
I move to approve the 2 alternate members for the Charter Review Committee. They are, and you got their
Keep
names,
going.
right?
The names, Mr. Brower and Mr. Novick.
Mr. Brower and Mr. Novick. The acting city manager has authority to correct services, errors, and the like.
Okay, properly moved by Commissioner King, seconded by Vice Mayor, correct? Any members of the public on this? We'll close the public comment portion. May we vote, please, on the 2 alternates? Motion passes 7-0, so we have our 5 members of the Charter Review Committee and the 2 alternates. Thank you, everyone that applied. And now we will move on to new business. Item 8A is a consideration of
Madam Mayor, before we leave
Yes.
that item, I'd just like to announce, I have asked Joyce Rafferty to be the staff liaison to the Charter Review, and the city attorney will be available for any legal opinions that the Charter Review should have. My concern is, in the past, the city attorney's office has been the main liaison. However, they are part of the charter, and I'm not sure that it's appropriate to have a direct connection to it. So I have asked the city clerk to be the staff liaison, so I just want to make that announcement.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on to item 8A, consideration of Nitty Gritty Ministries special event in-kind donations. Mr. Reckley? It's my understanding that they are requesting a waiver of all fees for an evangelical outreach event at Dewey Boster Sports Complex on August 6th and 7th. We have, commissioners, you have the policy attached, policy number CC 99-005, and that basically states our policy.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, you are correct with the request that was given during the special event application process. It was discussed past policies. The applicant wished to ask the Commission for the additional approval to waive all fees for the event.
Okay, and our commission policy would be for, sorry, Vice Mayor. Not on. Our commission policy would be for $250?
That is correct for the number that was represented on the application.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Is that the current policy?
Yes.
That is? Because we voted on this a couple years ago, or was that just for, I just want to make sure it's the current one.
This is, the policy utilizes the most recent one. I know a couple years ago, an item came to you, but it was, I believe, in reference to the Bacon and Brew Festival, which was a different type of event.
Okay.
Okay, so, Mr. Reckley, just to be clear, what is in the staff report, based on the number of attendees provided by the applicant, the maximum amount of in-kind services that can be waived is $250. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we can waive $250 worth of, are you lit? Sorry.
No, sorry. I just have a question.
Okay.
Would that be $250 for each day or $250 for the weekend?
There's one application, there's one event, so it's $250 for the event.
Okay, Commissioners, any more questions for Mr. Reckley? Commissioner McCool, Commissioner Vasquez.
I want to ask, because this has been asked, and I just want to, I wholeheartedly believe in the Nitty Gritty Ministry special event. They do a lot of food drops. I wholeheartedly believe in that. I was asked, and I want to know, with the word evangelical in there, like the city sponsoring a church event, I just want to know, I don't fundamentally have a problem with that, but it's been asked, so I want to clarify. You know, the city sponsoring an evangelical event. So can we clarify that, please?
If it was the Nitty Gritty Hot Dog Festival, we would still be in the same position. It has nothing to do with the evangelical. One, difference between the food drops, with the timing, that is a public service. This is more of a special event, so that is looked at differently.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I was specifically asked about it's for being for, I know that it's open for everyone, So I just need to bring it up. I was asked about it. I need to bring it up. It's an evangelical. It says there on the request that it's an evangelical, application for evangelical night. So I just am trying to clarify separation of church and state. Are we now sponsoring church things? You know what I'm saying? So I just want to clarify. I love them and I love everything that they do, but it's due diligence, I have to ask this.
Yes, I mean, that is a great point, but even in this situation, we would still be in this situation. But I understand with the difference, the separation of church and state, different things. I think that's where you're going. But we would still be in the same spot with this type of kind of private event.
I just want to make that clear, you know what I mean, with being a nonprofit, that's all.
Okay, Commissioner Avila Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm a little confused here because a few months ago, we had the Masonic Lodge up here requesting a sponsorship from the city of Deltona to do they transfer their cornhole event from Seminole to the city of Deltona. And I was told the city no longer sponsors events. I was told, no, the city no longer does this. The city commissioners voted on this. So I'm a little bit confused that we're even asking questions on this instead of saying the same thing we were told, or the Masonic Lodge was told that the city doesn't sponsor any more events, according to some commissioners up here. And my other question is, should this be approved, does this organization have liability insurance? Because when I used to use the city's centers or whatever, when I, not sitting up here, I used to have a nonprofit organization, and I was required to bring a rider from my liability insurance, making sure the city was not liable for any damages or anything that happened while I was doing an event in city property.
That is true with this type of event. You would need that rider of insurance. But we did not request it at the time, not until the commission approved this event to have the applicant go out and expend additional funds if it would be denied. So we're waiting on an approval or denial of this event.
Well, we can't approve of an event if they don't have liability insurance. That's one of the most important and I'm, again, quoting what I was told whenever I came with an application like this.
Yes.
You need to show me that you have insurance before we can approve this for you.
Everything usually is contingent upon the request from the city. So if we requested that liability insurance, if approved, they would still have to turn that in prior to the event.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's obviously a difference between a food drop and this type of event that we're seeing here in front of us. And the other thing, as I'm reading here under security, what citizens patrol, what security is that's going to be provided out there? So for the number of individuals that we're talking, up to 100, isn't there supposed to be a number of deputies out there?
As far as security, that's the information we were given to us on the special event application, that the CIPs would be, or maybe there have been some approval on the applicant's end with Volusia Sheriff's Office for the use of CIPs.
So we're not even sure about the security then?
At this point, we don't know. We're just looking at the application itself.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Commissioner Ramos, that was one of my questions, was security. Obviously, security can be detrimental. I know majority of cities you go to and you host an event, the first thing they're going to say is you need fire, you need police, you need everything. And I don't see that on here. And I'm a little confused too, and that's why I asked if this was the most current policy, because I know it was discussed up here. So I know the center has their own policy when it comes to events. And was under the impression that when we did that, that they were all being changed, but I guess it was probably never brought back. But I know for the center, we definitely changed that policy where there's no free events. Everything has to be paid. So, I mean, I guess I was under that impression as well. That's why I was a little questioning that current policy. One thing that I have a problem with is this, and a lot of organizations, they would say no to this because they're making money. So generally, when an event is going to make money from an event, they do a prorated version, or they'll not comp it because you're actually making money on the event. It's not like a complete charitable event where they're not, making anything. And, from the looks of this, they're doing raffles, they're charging admission, they're going to have rides and bounce houses. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I think there is a lot of questions unanswered on here that I guess my biggest concern at this point is security. That is my number one concern, especially after whatever happened this weekend.
Commissioner Vasquez, and then Commissioner McCool.
Yes, I just want to answer Vice Mayor's comment. The original request from the Masonic Lodge was Dewey Boster Park, and once turned down, it was moved to the center on the request of Mr. Peters to try to make it a signature event going forward.
Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, I would like to encourage Ms. Chavez to reapply, that we get more information with this. If this is not enough information for me, and again, I have been asked and raised a concern about it being an evangelical, the state sponsoring a church event. No matter how loosely organized, I have a fundamental issue with that. Food drops are definitely different, you know what I mean? That benefits the whole community. But if someone is fundamentally opposed to religion, then it's not for everyone. I know that it's free to attend, but it's shaped in such a way that would discourage use of everyone to participate. So I love, again, nitty-gritty talk ministries, right? I love them. I love what they do, but I think that this needs to be redone.
Madam Mayor.
I just have a couple questions, Mr. Peters, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I just want to clarify a couple things. So, Ryan, they are asking for a waiver of all fees.
That is correct.
And our policy allows us to waive $250 of fees, because she is indicating 11 to 3, she expects 20, 40 or plus, and on 6/11, 6/12, 40 or plus the amount of people.
Correct.
So she wants a waiver of all fees. What is the cost of all these fees that we would be waiving?
I think it's approximately plus $6,000.
Could you say that again?
Above $6,000 with the field
So
reservation, staff usage, staff time. It's up there.
So she's asking, this particular organization is asking to waive $6,000 worth of staff time.
Reservations.
Because what I'm seeing here, the request is for the Citizens Patrol. It is for, we'll need 2 bleachers, soccer field, stage, and they want entrance through the main gate. They want people to direct people, make sure the back gate is blocked. They want to have help for anyone that's lost. They don't know if they are going to have signs. They might have signs. They might have handmade signs. Do we not have a sign ordinance for that as well? I'm just asking in general. They're not going to be purchasing banners. And you have no liability insurance yet.
That's great.
So just to be clear, there's an expectation to waive $6,000 worth of fees. with this. That's what they're asking for. And no liability insurance, no idea if they're having signs, no law enforcement. And you're going to tell me this is a 2-day evangelical event. I don't care what kind of event it is, by the way. It doesn't matter to me. And you're expecting 20 to 40 people the first day and 40+ people the second day. And you're going to have bounce houses and all that. And then you're going to charge tickets for admission. So they're going to try to make money, and they want all the fees.
Yes, that's
Wait.
part of the application request.
And so I just have one more question on process. This is an event permit. So when you're applying for an event permit, forget about waiver of fees. Is there an expectation of liability insurance?
Yes, there is.
So one way or another, forget about the waiver of fees. There's no liability insurance here.
That is correct.
So would you approve or deny this permit on liability insurance?
It would be denied.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Ramos, Commissioner McCool.
I understand. Mr. Peters wanted to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Peters.
Madam Mayor, what I was going to suggest, this is a request for a waiver, we're recommending only $250 in compliance with policy. We do have a requirement for liability insurance on these type of things, but given the nature of the questions that have come up, I would strongly suggest that we do a 2-part workshop. One would be events on city facilities, how they're handled. The second is something that transpired a couple times in the last 2 weeks, and that is events on private property, so that we can present to the commission how the process works in both cases according to our policies, procedures, and ordinance. That way, you all would have a level of comfort as to what we're looking at when we receive these applications. And if you all deem that there's some things that we may need to modify, then we can bring code changes back to the commission for approval. I personally would prefer a lot of these things be codified as opposed to a simple policy statement. It's much easier to go in the Muni Code and find a procedure that had been codified as opposed to having Joyce look through the records to find a policy that was approved. So whatever you do tonight, I will plan to bring forward a workshop to discuss both public property events and private property events.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's 2 motions that I see in reference to what's on our agenda package here, in reference to deny approval as the in-kind costs are in excess of the maximum allowed. But then it says, I move to affirm. So I'm going to make a motion. I move to affirm Commission Policy number CC99-005 and provide an in-kind contribution of $250 to the Nitty Gritty Ministry special event. The acting city manager has the authority to correct certain errors and the like. My understanding is that what we're doing, my motion reads as far as they can get up to $250, that's it, as an in-kind contribution. Everything else, it has to be paid for.
Okay, properly moved by Commissioner Ramos.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Bradford for a $250 in-kind contribution in line with our city commission policy. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on this?
Albert Bryan, please.
Albert Bryan, Deltona. 2 things come to mind. One, by okaying a $250 fee that you're talking about, you're limiting this to 100 people. In other words, if they have any more than 100 people, then they're in violation of what you just voted on. Are you ready to send code enforcement out to count them out? That's one thing. 2, because this is a religious event, and how can you say it's anything else but a religious event? Because is being done by a religious group, the Nitty Gritty Ministries. That's a religious group. They're limiting it to 100 people. So therefore, you're in violation of the United States Constitution if you vote yes for this. Because by limiting it to 100 people, they're saying me as an atheist, if I was an atheist, I couldn't come. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a God-fearing man. But I have a problem with that. Because now, if you vote yes on this, that means any other church who wants to come and use Dewey Boster or West Cryle or any of your parks, you're going to have to grant them the same motion that Mr. Ramos just made. And I understand, Mr. Ramos, you made the motion according to what was based in 2015. I get that. But think about this. If you vote for this, you will violate your oath of office, and each and every one of you should resign for that. Because if you limit this to 100 people, how many people are part of this ministry? By your setup of this $250, you're saying no more than 100 people, because that's what your policy says. Not my policy, your policy. So by saying that it's okay to have a ministry come out and do this event, you're saying that it's okay to mix religion and state. I don't see that. That, to me, is against my Constitution of the United States and the Florida Constitution, for that matter. I have a real problem with that, because at that point in time, you're saying, okay, we'll let any church come in here, and if you limit it to 100 people, we'll grant you a $250, absent a fee, and y'all can do whatever you want on our property. So if we do this, remember the consequences of what comes aboard next. We have gone for the last 4 or 5 years and told people, no, we don't want to take and give waivers. That's all I've heard for the last 4 or 5. It didn't matter who it was. Mr. Navich used to sit right there and say that all it will do is create more and more people doing this. And yet I haven't heard that echoed but by one person tonight. And that's because of another situation with a cornhole. But the situation here is different because this is actually religion. You don't mix religion and state. That's a no-no. It always has been a no-no. You just don't do that.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor,
Wait,
may I address?
that closes the public comment portion of the meeting. Yes, Mr. Peters.
If I may address, the city attorney and I were looking at each other. An assertion that we're violating the Constitution with regard to church and state is incorrect. Our policy is religion neutral. So, if our policy said for any religious or Christian organization we will allow you, then that would be a violation of church and state because we would be sponsoring a specific religion. But our policy is religion neutral, and actually any 501c3. So I just want to point out that any assertion of church and state is incorrect in this regard.
Okay, if we have Commissioner Ramos and Vice Mayor Bradford, and I would just like to, before we go any further, multiple years ago when Commissioner Lowry, Councilmember Lowry was on the commission, he held a God and Country rally at Dewey Boster. And I cannot honestly tell you if there were any permit fees or anything done and waived at that time, but I remember that was a multiple day event and that was held at Dewey, so we can look into that and see what it was, but I'll speak after Commissioner Ramos and Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question just for clarification, because I don't think we're saying we're limited to 100 people. That's not what we've said here. According to the way our breakdown is, if an event come, according to her, she's expecting up to 100 people. So due to that fact, and I'm only asking for clarification here, they then can apply, or we could apply that $250. But that doesn't mean that 101 comes and they're in violation. Am I correct?
The policy you guys have been following is it's all tiered. So everything right now, what you're voting on is based on what the applicant placed on the application as far as numbers. So if the applicant had placed 500 people on the application, that would have taken it to a different level of tier of approval. But with them only at saying 100 or less, it's $250.
So according to the applicant, which said is less than 100, the only thing that can qualify is for 250. If that day 300 shows up, that's not our fault because that was not on the application.
Vice Mayor?
That was going to be my same clarification, that they could have shortchanged themselves and actually have 1,000 people show up, but because they only said they're having 100, that's the maximum allowable amount that they're allowed to get.
That is correct.
Right, but that does not restrict them to anybody else out there showing up or anybody else coming, but had they put on here, they're going to have 5,000 people, then they would have got the maximum allowable portion. But according to what they've put on their application, which, I appreciate the honesty, was that they're going to have no more than 100, but if that shows up, they're allowed. Which I'm sure they wouldn't mind if everybody showed up and came out. It'd probably be a great day.
The only issue from that standpoint with the increase of crowd would be the increased need for law enforcement.
Well, and here's my question. Are we going to require, or do we have an ordinance that requires events to have ambulance, police? I mean, I know there was an event in Eatonville that I assisted with years ago, and it was adamant that out of the expectation of people, I had to have fire, we had to have police, we had to have everything included. And to me, that's critical. I
Yes,
don't think Citizens on Patrols is going to cut it.
Yeah, we'll definitely double check with the county, see what their recommendations are on this, and their involvement of the CIPs. Again, that was just the information that it was approved already for the CIPs to do this event, but we'll definitely double check with that.
Do we have our own policy regarding events of that size, or events, what is required of events?
We typically send the information to, say, fire or Volusia County Sheriffs, and they tell us exactly how many law enforcement individuals we need for that event.
Okay, but do we have a policy on like the procedures on that and all that? You've got all that, right, Ryan? You've got a policies and procedures on exactly, hey, somebody comes here and they want this, the actual steps that need to be taken and what's required. Something to back you guys up, so when you say, hey, you got to go to the sheriff, they go, why do I have to do that?
Yes, I believe we do have some basic information, but as Mr. Peters did state, I do believe we need to revisit
I think so too.
Everything, yes.
Can I also, there is liability insurance required here too, and that is people specific. So, I mean, the liability insurance comes through my office. So, that is always reviewed, and it's based on the expected number of people that are going to be there so that we're adequately insured if there's a problem or something happens. So if this is 100 or maybe 500, it's a problem with regards to insurance. I mean, we have to have a fairly, good estimate, or I'm not going to sign off on it. I mean, that's just because, that I can't put the city in a position where we're not adequately insured for the event if something happens.
Right, and you generally won't receive that liability insurance until an event's approved and booked. I mean, somebody's not going to go buy it on, I think I might. So I'm guessing if and when they do the booking, that's when you'd have your procedures to take the liability.
And I just want to point out, we need a pretty accurate account on how many people are going to be there over 2 days, because from the insurance standpoint, I would go to the max. As far as if they think there could be 500 or 1,000, then I'm going to ask for insurance that's covering that. And so there's costs involved in that too. And if we have an event that doesn't have sheriff coverage or fire department coverage or any of those kinds of things factored in, that only makes the liability insurance go up. I mean, these things are all related to each other.
Are you done, Vice Mayor? Hang on one second, Commissioner Vasquez. If you look on the second page of your commission policy and procedure that's in your packet, it says, the city commission by majority vote will determine whether or not to provide any or all of the following in-kind services: fees for permits, use of city equipment, costs associated with city staff time, fire and first aid protection calculated at the current hourly rate, police protection calculated at the current hourly rate. It's in that policy and procedure. Commissioner Vasquez?
Thank you, Mayor. And that's exactly what I was going to comment on. And I don't know how much of a difference there is between the times that I used to fill out these applications, but insurance does make a difference. It depends on the number of people that you invite. If you rent Gemini Springs, the first thing they ask you is how many people are you having, and then that's how they anticipate how much insurance they're going to charge you. And it's not, the sheriff's department does not charge you for the sheriff's department. They charge you per deputy per hour. At least that's the application I used to fill out. The fire department has to have an ambulance on site. So, you know, it all adds up. And I think that, I don't even know if the city speaks for the fire department on this, and I don't know if they're the ones who approve their services, but all this adds up. This, you know, so.
Yes, we did receive the numbers for fire to attend. I think that was a part of the application process, so the numbers that were provided. Again, for law enforcement, we were informed that it was already approved that the CIPs would be responsible and not the law enforcement deputies. Again, that's something that we can follow up on, but we're just going by what was stated on the application.
Okay, thank you. So right now we have a motion and a second on the floor to go ahead and grant the amount of $250 per our commission policy. Does not limit them from having more, but this is what they put on the permit, that they expect up to 100 people. If you expect up to 100 people, the maximum dollar value of in-kind donations that they can receive is $250. So that is the motion to grant the maximum value of in-kind donations based on their expected attendance. That is the motion on the floor. So can we vote, please? And the motion passes 5-2. So the maximum that they can get, Ryan, is $250, provided all the other criteria are met per your procedure that you usually do.
Thank you, Commission, for your direction.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have the next item, which is also you, Mr. Reckley, which is item 8B, request to approve a contract with Community Solutions Group, GAI, to complete a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Mr. Reckley.
Just very briefly, we are looking to complete a master plan. It hasn't been done since 2007, 2008. We are severely past due for another. Not just basically for the time, just for the fact that the population has grown and changed. The amount of parks we have has grown and changed. The need of our facility and department has changed, and also the incorporation of our nature parks and our Blue Ways trails and different components that we're bringing into the city of Deltona. This is a very much needed master plan to give us a great roadmap moving forward to the future, not just for our department, not just for the city, but for any future commission to see that same roadmap moving forward for the department. So we severely need this new master plan, and it also assists us with our CAPRA accreditation that we're looking forward to. You know, that will be a big step moving forward, almost a first step, a first base run to get to that accreditation. So this is a very important stage of the blueprint.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor?
Number one question I have, Mr. Peters. Do we have the money available in the budget this year to do this? Would this be 2021 or 21-22?
We are taking the money from the park impact fees, which has approximately $800 and some thousand in it. So this study is, the park impact fee is for future improvements resulting from growth. And we have had significant growth since the last master plan was done. So this is an appropriate use for the park impact fees. Two things I want to add in here is, in accordance with our purchasing policy, we are piggybacking off a contract that they have with the city of Gainesville on a very similar project. So we are meeting the requirements of the purchasing policy through piggybacking. The second thing is I made an error when I was reviewing this. I should have caught it. But this actually requires a budget transfer because we have to move the money from the impact fee to a line item for this. So when you make the motion, rare time I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to ask you to give me the authority to make a budget transfer from the Parks and Rec fee to a line item for this project.
Any other questions?
Thank you for clarification.
Any other questions, commissioners? Let's see, Commissioner Sosa.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at a $5 million budget for Parks and Recs for next year, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and we're out of that $5 million, we're looking to do, what, about $2.5 million in improvements as far as bathrooms, fences, gates, restrooms, playground equipment. We're looking to do, what, about $2.5 million worth of repairs?
That's all for park infrastructure, yes.
Okay. Would it not be better to hold off if they're going to go through and look at our parks and, basically itemize each item in our park and kind of give us a where we're at, where we need to be? If the budget passes, would it not be best to do this study after the improvements are done?
No, like all of the items that we have, there's many steps of getting the master plan in place. You're mentioning the infrastructure of parks, but there's more than just the infrastructure of parks. You're talking personnel, our policies and procedures, our standard operating procedures, the focus, the mission, the focus of the department moving forward. As mentioned, we have nature parks that we're bringing on board, the improvement down at the facility on Lakeshore. So there are many components, involved where we need to really get this started now. The infrastructure portion, that should be done regardless. We have failing infrastructure that needs to be improved. So there's no doubt that needs to be done as soon as possible, but a master plan encompasses much, much more than that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could expand on that a little bit. The projects that we have in next year's budget, and Ryan, please correct me if I'm wrong, fall under the category of repair and replacement.
That's correct.
We are not building new facilities. The one new facility I took out of the budget. So we are strictly doing the TLC to our existing facility. We're doing repair and replacement. We're not doing new facilities. Part of the reason for the master plan is to give us some guidance as to what direction we will go in the future with new capital improvements.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner McCool.
Ryan, what is the time frame that this is being proposed to be done?
We're saying probably within 18 months.
Within 18 months. What is the time scope that we will start using the budget that we've allotted for the Parks and Recreation for the repairs and maintenance? When will we start using that?
Once the budget is approved, we're looking October 1 to start implementing all of our repairs and maintenance.
Okay. So I have read through this scope of service, and am I to understand that this scope of service also will point out amenities that we could potentially use or not use for upcoming budget?
That's correct.
Okay. So this could potentially save money from next year's budget as well by pointing out what we may think that we need and we don't actually need, and vice versa?
In the future, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Any members of the public wanting to speak on this item? Okay, then we'll, yes, sir, did you want to speak? You have to sign, did you sign up for speaking for the public comment?
For another subject.
Not on this, not on the Park and Rec Master Plan.
But I have 10 seconds worth of stuff to say. 10 seconds.
He signed up for general public comments?
Yeah, that's coming, that's at the end. That's coming up. That's coming up after the next item. That'll be general. If it's on this item, if it's on, I'm sorry?
I use the parks a lot.
Well, then if you, sir, we can't go back and forth here. You either have a public comment on this item, and if you do, please come forward on this item. If you can come up and speak on this item if you'd like, and you can speak in general public comment, but the comment is just for this item right now.
That's all I have.
Okay.
10 seconds.
You go ahead and come up and speak on this item. That's not a problem. You can speak in general public comment as
I
well.
didn't know if I had to fill this out or not. I have one filled out for another subject.
Okay.
The only thing I'm asking is, spend a little time cleaning the restrooms. I mean, I go out to Thornby Park and I won't even go in there. It's that dirty. So if they can spend a little bit more time cleaning the restrooms, I would really appreciate that. But sometimes I go to Thornby Park to ride the bike down the trail, and I'll wait till I get to the county park because those are actually taken care of. So I think that's a pretty big issue to start with. I don't know what the other ones are, but I still haven't figured out what he's talking about. But at least, this is step one, clean up what we have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public that wanted to speak on this? Okay, then we'll close the public comment portion of this item. Commissioner Ramos.
Madam Mayor, if there's no other comments, I'm ready to make a motion. I move to approval of a contract with Community Solutions Group in the amount of $123,990 and a contingency of $6,010 to complete new Parks and Recreation Master Plan as part of the process for the City of Deltona Parks and Recreation Department to be nationally accredited. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener errors and the like.
Second.
Okay, multiple of seconds. Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos. And who seconded it? Commissioner McCool or Commissioner?
Mayor, I think he wanted us to add the park impact fee to transfer.
The authority to, can you, as you made the motion, add in?
I was
you give
asking
the authority to do a
we include language that allows me to make a budget transfer from the Parks and Rec impact fee account to a line item for the item.
As our acting city manager has stated, onto the motion.
So the motion is amended. Since I did not say who seconded yet, the motion is amended to give the authority to the acting city manager to do a budget transfer from Park and Rec impact fees to a line item budget. And who seconded it? Was it Commissioner McCool? Yes. Okay, you're still good with that second, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we have a motion and a second. And may we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. I just want to say the gentleman is right on target with the restrooms, and I'm hoping that all of this, if you look at the old one, there's a copy of the old master plan upstairs somewhere, and it's very interesting. And I think this is, I don't think this is a study that's going to sit on a shelf. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, so item C, consideration of approval of a settlement agreement in the David Foote versus the City of Deltona lawsuit. Mr. Peters or Marcia.
This item was subject to a settlement agreement negotiation with our city attorney's office and the attorney for Mr. Foote. Mr. Foote lives on Waycross, and we have a very unusual utility situation here where the lift station is higher than some of the surrounding properties. So when the lift station fails, it will back up the sewer system. There is a manhole near Mr. Foote's house that is slightly above the finished floor elevation of his house, yet it is the lowest manhole in the system. So if you have a sewer backup, the sewage water will seek the point of lowest relief, which happens to be his house. There is a house adjoining that is slightly higher, and so the negotiations occurred, a settlement of $250,000 was reached back in April. Subsequent to that period, we reached out to our insurance carrier to see if they would participate in paying for a portion of all of the settlement. Those discussions were ongoing. The plaintiff went to, or defendant, I guess, went to the judge a couple weeks ago, got an order for us to put this on the agenda for tonight to pay the settlement. When I heard about the judge's order, I stepped in, checked with our risk manager and the city attorney's office. You all received an email from me with a letter, and I think it's in the package, that I produced as a professional engineer saying that the city was at fault. We should have made provision to handle the worst case scenario so it wouldn't back into the houses. We are in the process of developing that, not just for Mr. Foote, but the adjoining house. It will probably be in the form of a private licitation on the individual properties, because that will provide an overland relief before it ever goes back into the houses in the future. It also creates an air gap. Today, we received a letter from our insurance carriers agreeing to pay, let's see here, I gotta find it.
$123,249.81.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anytime.
And they have said that we could go ahead, approve the settlement agreement tonight, and then they will reimburse us back that amount. So what we're recommending to the commission is that we settle the $250,000 claim, taking the money from unrestricted reserves, and then the insurance company will reimburse it the $123,000 some dollars. So our recommendation is to approve the settlement agreement, and then staff will be working to put in place the necessary improvements that we should have done years ago to have avoided this. So that is our recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner McCool.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why the judge was so fired up in this situation and so pissed at us. I'm trying to read the timeline here, so I'm just trying to find out what happened so it doesn't happen again, because
My understanding, the judge was fired up because he was watching our meetings, and he saw that we were entertaining settlements with 2 different other lawsuits, and he felt like that we were showing callous indifference, my words, toward this settlement with Mr. Foote, when in fact we were legitimately trying to get the insurance to pay their fair share. It is my understanding that he was watching our meetings and saw that we were dealing with other settlements and not the one before him.
Is this matter settled and the issue is fixed? Is the issue fixed with the engineering out there?
Can you add that again, please?
Is the issue fixed with the engineering out there?
Not to my satisfaction, no, ma'am. I had a meeting at lunchtime today with my staff. I gave them specific direction going forward, and we are in the process of addressing the elements that were in my letter to the insurance company.
And we're expected that to be fixed when?
Oh, boy. Ma'am, I can't answer that. I mean, I would expect to have a course of action within 2 weeks with the pricing, and if it exceeds $25,000, we'll be bringing it back to you. I'm hopeful that it would not be anywhere near that amount, but a lot of it is going to rely on the two property owners in question being willing to work with us. You know, a small grinder lift station you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot for less than $1,000. You have to do some electrical modification, which is another couple $1,000s each. So, you know, this is something that could be as little as, you know, $7,000, $10,000. Or if they're not willing to work with us, it could run into, you know, $100,000. So we got several options we're looking at. The grinder pump is, in my view, the best option, and that's what we're going to try to pursue with the two property owners.
And that is fine. I just wanted to, you know, more than 25% of the projects that are in capital improvement are in that district, which is my district, is over in that area. So I understand it to be a troubled area, and I just want to make sure that we're not cleaning poo again. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions from residents asking me today. This was settled back in April of 2020, and we should have paid it out between April 2020 and now. They've been asking me if the city dropped the ball on this, and that's why the judge is asking for this to be done now immediately, or he was going to hold us in contempt. I don't know the answers to that. Honestly, I didn't know about this case till you sent me the information about a week ago.
Mr. Sosa, part of the answer to your question is I have asked staff to give me an update on all lawsuits. We will be doing a monthly update so that we all are informed as to where we are. It's extremely embarrassing to me because it was in my old department, and I was not aware of the severity of this problem. You know, quite frankly, it didn't take that long to come up with a solution. So through that aspect of it, I take responsibility on that. As I said earlier, there was a lot of efforts to get the insurance to do the right thing. Mind you, this is a problem that had gone on for a number of years and had been involving multiple insurance companies, which just makes it that much more difficult. But going forward, we will be, you know, we just got served with another lawsuit today. So we will be keeping the commission apprised on a monthly basis, the status report on any lawsuits, threatened lawsuits, and settlements, so that we all are fully informed. This is a learning experience. It's certainly a learning experience for me. I'm new at this, and so we're going to address the issue going forward.
Vice Mayor?
And I was going to kind of echo those. I read through the other documents, and I even sent you a letter and said, hey, please give clarification, which you did, but I'm still not clarified how it was dropped. Because part of me, when I was reading through the information, I don't think it would have been this high had things been followed through. So the way I looked at it, I don't know if it went to, you know, our firm, to the insurance firm, and the insurance firm was supposed to show up and never showed up. But from what I was reading, it was like a lot of no-shows. And that to me is concerning. So my question is how are, I mean, things like this can't fall through a crack. This is pretty serious. You know, the letter I received a few weeks ago was pretty scary for me to think that, you know, the way I think the judge took it was that we were laughing at them by not showing up and not responding and not even doing that. And that's alarming to me. And I just need to know, was it our representation? Was it the attorney's representation for the insurance company? Who is representing the city of Deltona in this issue?
Our city attorney's office was representing us, and I want to clarify something. Mr. Searcher said April of 2020, and it was actually April of 21.
Thank you.
That's just several months ago, not a year and several months.
Okay, what were they referring to in the previous correspondence to us all, where they were saying that we weren't showing up, we weren't responding? What were they referring to in that previous letter?
Here, let me respond.
Thank you.
Basically, this was a carrier case. And these are not the kinds of cases that the city attorney's office handles. And what happened in this particular circumstance, and it was kind of similar, I don't know if you recall when you had the Sheik case with Dr. Cooper, where the carrier had budgeted money for a lawyer, and then they were going to spend all the money, and then the Sheik case was still not resolved. So then they went to Dr. Cooper and said they needed more money, or they were just going to throw it to the city attorney's office. The difficulty with us representing a carrier case is that the city attorney's loyalty is to the commission. We don't work for the carrier. And that's why the carrier always hires their own lawyers. And so, with Sheik, Dr. Cooper actually put money in the city attorney's budget and ended up spending about $45,000 additional of the city's money in order to settle Sheik. And they won Sheik. When the Foot case, we got it late because it went to the carrier, because the carrier was covering it with regard to liability. And so we knew nothing about the Foot case. And so what happened is then it came to me that basically they didn't budget for a lawyer. And so the city attorney was going to have to handle it. So that's where it started. And then there was great difficulty with this case because it does go back to 2002. Couldn't find, the judge was complaining we didn't have a witness list. We didn't have any witnesses. We had nobody on staff from the time when all of the Foot stuff started. So there was a lot of problems trying to put the case together, not being able to get information. And I wasn't handling it. And then there was a situation where, Scott got COVID and he was ill, and so there were some delays in there. But the other problem is we were trying different strategies, should we buy the house? Could we buy the house? It was cheaper to buy the house, but he wouldn't sell the house. And so it was like, we had a very aggressive lawyer and we had very limited information. And it really wasn't until things got pretty bad that I got dragged back in. And I immediately met with the carrier and basically pointed out that they had significant responsibility. In the city attorney's budget, I still had, Dr. Cooper had put money from Sheik in the budget, in the city attorney budget. I didn't even know that it was in there. But so I had half of this in the city attorney budget from Sheik. And basically, so I went to the carrier and asked them to put up the other half. And then Scott and I went and talked to Mr. Peters. And he then, in looking at it and us discussing it, felt very strongly that the city was at fault and all of this should have been dealt with because he is an engineer. I'm not an engineer, Scott's not an engineer. We just were having real problems with it. And so then we started putting the pieces together to bring it forward. But it was my understanding the judge was particularly angry. It was, I don't know, a couple of meetings ago or right before this order came down. I think Skip was at that meeting, and when you got to the end and said, City Attorney, do you have any comments? And Skip said, no, we don't have anything, Mayor. And that seemed to, really be like he should have brought up the Foot case. But he didn't. I mean, that's not how we handle things, and we were trying to work through the carrier. but again, in an awkward situation. And as Mr. Peters said, it is a learning experience because I had never, because when you're a city attorney, you don't deal with the carrier. There's like a wall because we can create a conflict. So I had never even read their contract, the carrier's contract, which was like about 250 pages. So I sat down and read, and I knew from Dr. Cooper about what happened with Chic. And then I basically started putting pieces together to meet with the carrier because they were basically taking the position they weren't going to roll over. That was kind of, their statement. And so, I mean, this one, there were a lot of problems in this whole process. And I've never seen, I've been practicing for 43 years, and I've never seen an order like the order that we dealt with, that you all been copied on. So that's basically what happened, and all I want to do, I very much appreciate Mr. Peters' assistance and help on this, because it was very difficult, and it was difficult for me. I set a pretty high standard for myself, and so this was kind of difficult. And he, really helped me put the pieces together so that we were trying to minimize the city's exposure to the best of our abilities. This will settle 2 claims. And also Mr. Foote had also represented that he had a number of physical issues from living in that house that had a number of sewer overflows over a number of years, and he has his aged father with him. And so this settlement settles all claims. And then with what Mr. Peters is talking about, it also provides a fix, which was something that we never had. The carrier expended claim money to Mr. Foote over the years on other claims, but it was like, a sidewalk trip or something like that, and you just pay somebody, but that money was never applied to a fix. So this is a global type of settlement, and so I've learned a lot too, and because I never would deal with those kinds of cases, but we are keeping close track of every one of the cases that's being held that the carrier is handling. And of course, when this Foote thing came up, we did not have a risk manager either. So, I was basically flying blind with regards to the carrier. And so we now have a risk manager. I have a greater understanding of what's going on there. And as Mr. Peters said, I mean, we're going to keep a tight, review of everything that's going on.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the update, because I'll be honest, when I got that, I was a little alarmed, because I know it hasn't been like you guys to not show up, and I'm just sitting here going, what, how could this happen? So am I reading this right, that there's a maximum amount that we're assured for, which this seems like a very low amount compared to damages that can be incurred for something like this little disaster? I mean, this doesn't even buy a piece of wood at this day. Are our limits now higher? I mean, this is 17, 18, so I'm assuming we have higher limits now than we did then, because this is a very low limit.
We also have attorneys. I mean, that's been one of the issues. And I mean, this has now happened to us twice. So, both with Chic and then with Foote. So I think going forward for the future, it puts us in an impossible situation if they are the carrier's budgeting for coverage but no lawyer. When they hire their lawyer, those lawyers work in tandem with the carrier. So, they're like, oh, I need to settle this. Then they talk to the claims people, and the claims say, you can have this much. We don't have that same relationship with the carrier. And so I think that going forward, when this contract comes in front of you. I think we've been with the same carrier for a number of years. And so I think some of these kinds of issues need to be scrutinized, because we can't be in a situation where they're providing coverage but not one of their lawyers. And also, you know, with regards to how some of these coverages are going down, you know, I mean, how they're allocating. And I don't think in the past all of that was ever reviewed, and it wouldn't have been reviewed by the city attorney. So, you know, it was very eye-opening for me when I sat down and read the 250 pages. So it is definitely something that needs to be dealt with for the future, and, you know, through the risk manager's office, and then with, you know, Mr. Peters, because, you know, if we're not aware of everything that's in there and all the coverages that we have and how they go down, then, you know, we're just not adequately protected.
Okay, so I'm going to assume then what you're saying is that when it comes time for renewal for this insurance carrier, we're going to be looking at it very closely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for taking care of this quickly, Mr. Peters. I appreciate it.
Commissioner McCool?
If I may add, I want to acknowledge Kat Aberson, our risk manager. She did a yeoman's effort to make all this happen last week, working with our insurance carrier and on this matter. And as the city attorney said, we went through a period of time without risk management help, and it's critical. But as I said before, we will start doing monthly reports on where we are with whatever the lawsuits or claims or whatever, so that you all are fully apprised of what's going on. And likewise for me.
Commissioner McCool?
I think that might clarify part of what I was going to ask, because I know that there's a fine line between, you know, commission interfering or whatever that is, and I'm just trying to, you know, be totally out in the daylight, okay, about what my expectation is as a commissioner when something like this is filed. I want to understand. I hate being caught off guard with stuff, not knowing about stuff until the, you know, wee hour. So if there is going to be action against the city, I want to understand, how does that person, do they go straight to the carrier to file? I want to understand, at what point should I be informed that action is going on or that we have potential litigation? So is that I'm informed, but I am not trying to dictate what staff is supposed to be doing. Okay. This is one of those things that I get in trouble about. You know, I want to know what's going on. I hate being in the dark. I want to be able to inform my residents, but yet I don't want to be getting in trouble for whatever it is I usually get in trouble for. So can you tell me what that process is?
Yes, ma'am. As I just outlined, you will be getting monthly reports on where we stand.
Okay.
Many of you all I meet with either once a week or every other week. You can pick up the phone and call Sandy and Sharon, set up time with me. You can come in with your little list and say, Mr. Peters, will you tell me what is going on with the bookcase? And if I don't know, I will get the information for you. If you're not satisfied at my level, then you bring it up on the dais under your time for discussion. I prefer not to get to that point. I will try my level best to deal with it on a one-on-one basis. But in accordance with the charter, the one-on-one communications you have with me, it's the time that you have the opportunity to be fully informed. If you're not satisfied with that, then bringing it forth on the dais would be the appropriate venue.
Thank you.
All set, Commissioner?
Yes.
Commissioner Sosa?
I have a question since we brought up the risk manager. When did our risk manager leave? Because I know we had one at the beginning of the year. Didn't we have a risk manager at the beginning of the year? Yes. And when did that person leave?
No, the previous. Nick.
We had Nick, and, and I don't know how much time there was between Nick and Kat, exactly, but that position was vacant for a significant period of time, but I
Okay.
can't tell you how long.
Okay, my only question is, because if this was sent to trial in April, then we would have had a risk manager at that time that should have known about this, correct?
You mean that this case was out there? She did know about it.
Okay, well, I'm kind of confused then why we're saying we didn't have a risk manager to take care of this.
When the case was filed, when it was with the carrier, not in the city attorney's office in 2020, we did not have a risk manager.
And when the insurance company decided they weren't going to continue to represent this case, did they just say nothing to nobody and just let it die, or did they
No, at
contact-
that point, and there was a gap because I can't tell you exactly who, they served the city, and the case was sent to the carrier. Okay. Then whatever was going on, and the carrier said, well, we have liability, but we don't provide a lawyer, which of course I had never heard of. Okay, so then it wound its way through HR finally to me, like, here it is. At that time, we did not have a risk manager, so there was no one that I could deal with who was dealing with the carrier. And that's the beginning of the problem that started with this case. Because I do a monthly report for the city attorney's office, and we list all of the litigation that we're handling, which is most of the litigation that you're all aware of out there is being handled by the carrier. It is not being handled by the city attorney's office. So that's kind of a rare, well, since I've been here, that's the first time that's ever happened, is what happened on foot. And and I had nobody to deal with like a risk manager. So that's when it started in 20. And then there was the attempt to find witnesses, statements, evidence, and this stuff went back quite a ways. And there were a number of previous claims that had been filed, but no one who was still there who could tell us what happened or how it happened. It's something that just got worse and worse and worse. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it.
Now, just trying to put the pieces together. The risk manager falls under human resources, correct? So would the human resources director not be the go-to? If we don't have a risk manager, shouldn't our HR director be our go-to, for you, so that instead of saying I have nobody to go to, shouldn't the HR director have been that person?
When this happened, I mean, we're getting into pretty detailed, okay. When this happened, the HR director was on a vacation of some duration, and so the only person I had was the person that was trying to act in his absence at that time. I mean, who had never really dealt with anything like this either. And that's all that's what happened. And, we can go back and go point by point and say this should have happened or this, but I mean, that it wasn't there. And so anyway, that,
All right, thanks.
Mr. Sosa, if I may jump in here. I'm not satisfied with the whole situation, to be honest with you. And, I'm going to have to do some investigation, reviews, what have you, which falls under personnel, which falls under me. And I will assure you that we will put processes in place to where this doesn't occur in the future. You need to realize since 2018, we've had 3 different city managers. We've had 2 different risk managers. And so consequently, if you don't have what I said before, that monthly update, things fall through the crack. And that's the first assessment that I have made from this, is that is the beginning of fixing the problem. There are other issues that we need to address. For instance, what is our game plan, our strategy, that when someone leaves is critical, such as a risk manager, who's the next person to step up? Have we gotten them training to do risk management? You know, every position in this city should have at least 2 people qualified to do that job. That is training. We have put training in this year's budget, much higher level than before. And so, you know, the thing that we have to do is we have to get redundancy built into our operation so that this does not happen in the future. I have lost a lot of sleep over this case because many of you all know me well enough to know that I don't take this stuff lightly. And, you know, the assessment that I have made so far is got to have a monthly update on these things. These are big ticket items. You know, we have in the budget $250,000 for litigation in the attorney's office. You know, we set aside $200,000 for litigation on Hickory Lakes. These are things that drive city managers crazy because you can't control it. But on that being said, what we got to do is we got to put a structure in place that provides the level of redundancy so that when I walk in the door as an acting city manager, I have a document that gets me updated. If I lose a risk manager, I have a process that somebody will take over. The risk manager for the city is an extremely important position. They need a backup. And so we are going to be working on fixing that so that this does not happen again in the future.
You good, sir? Vice Mayor?
I hereby motion to approve the settlement agreement in the case matter David Foote versus City of Deltona and authorize the necessary budget transfer to facilitate commission approval and further authorize the acting city manager to sign the settlement agreement, documents necessary to further commission approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay, properly moved by Vice Mayor Bradford, and who seconded? Second by Commissioner Ramos. Is there anyone from the public that signed up to speak for this?
Albert Bryan and then Richard Bellick. Albert Bryan, please.
I wasn't going to talk on this, but wow. Madam Mayor, I got to ask, I really do. Can somebody give us a dumbed-down version of this? I mean, I'm sorry, but sitting back there, I got confused as heck as everything went on here. I mean, I don't have a problem y'all okaying this, but could somebody please at least dumb this down just a little bit for me? I mean, what happened, where, when, why, and what is just, I'm sorry, a little bit out there, but I hear it started back in 2002. It's gone all the way through to now. And did I hear at one point in time there's more than one person, you know, in this thing somewhere? Maybe it's not in the suit, but more than one person actually was involved in this? Wow. I mean, I don't get it. That whole conversation there was just really confusing. I apologize. I really do. I wasn't even going to speak on this because I figured it was a settled thing. I really did. I thought the whole thing was settled, basically. Now, I do have one question that Mr. Peters actually brought up, and that's, you're going to pay this guy before the problem's actually fixed? Now, does this settlement say that he can't sue us in the future because we haven't fixed the problem yet? So if tomorrow, after y'all agree or disagree with the settlement, and I don't care which one, because I'm not the one that's going to be held in contempt. I think that's the mayor is going to be held in contempt. So, you know, if y'all don't want to settle this, that's fine too, you know. I mean, it's okay. But no, and seriously, but if this isn't done to where he backs up again into his house, can he say that we got another claim? I mean, I didn't hear that anywhere in any of this conversation. So I'm not sure if we sign this settlement and let's say this thing that Mr. Peters is talking about needs to get fixed for $7,000 or whatever it is, it could cost us to get fixed. If he doesn't get it fixed and this backs up again, can he sue us again? Just a thought there.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, may I address that?
Yes.
I think he brings up an important point. If we were to have an extreme rain event and it were to cause a potential for backup, our plan right now is we would go on the property, we would dig up the clean out and create an opening so that the sewage would have overland relief before it would go into the house. So that is our plan right now, should we have an extreme event before we finish a permanent solution.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Bellick.
How long did the law firm know this was going on? The law firm gets $400,000 a year. How long did they know this was going on and never took any action? I mean, this is like who's on first, what's on second, you know. There's nobody at third base. I mean, this is crazy. This is Twilight Zone stuff. $400,000 a year, and this is what we got to hear? Come on, let's wake up here. Something has to be done. The law firm should go. That should be enough for you to say, hey, hit the road. Come on, you just got to wake up someday.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, that closes public comment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to authorize the settlement. I just want to say in response to public comment, this started in 2004, 2002, 4, 6, and so forth. During that time, there were at least 3 different in-house attorneys that were involved at that time. And then you had 2 firms after that. So you're looking at 5 different city attorney involvement. And I can tell you that when I first got elected in 2010, so probably around 2011 or 2012, one law firm came in and there were lawsuits there from 06 and before that had not been settled. So it's a new day, and we will continue to move this forward, and it's about time we fix this problem. May we vote, please? Motion passes 7-0. We'll go next item on the agenda is a public forum. Will you please read who has filled out for public forum on general comments?
Richard Bellick and Dr. Robert Mertens. Richard Bellick, please.
Thank you, my lady. Well, one thing that I seen, I watched a workshop the other night, and I seen you talked about the center, and it's making $300,000 a year, but it's paying $420,000 in salaries, and it's losing $1.13 million a year. Is the $400,000 in interest included in that? I mean, this is a lot of what's going to be done there. How long is this going to go on? Is she running the center too? I mean, this is getting crazy now. Come on. Now, I got another thing. I'm going to go back in the past. There was a Waste Pro contract voted on, okay? Heidi, you voted on it. Ramos voted on it, right? The rates went up. Cost the residents money. You each got $500 for Waste Pro. How does that work? What kind of politics is that? I mean, you should have sent the money back. That's fair to you. That's how you treat your residents. They get punished and you make money off it. That is pretty nice, really. That is really nice. Again, I want everybody in Deltona to hear me. Your rates went up. Heidi and Ramos made money off of you. Now, I know you're going to come with some excuse when I can't talk, and you'll come with something, but I remember distinctly asking you. You wouldn't answer the question back then. You delayed. Oh, you looked, you smiled, you did everything, but you never answered the question. I think he got chased around the ballpark with somebody trying to get him to answer the question. He wouldn't answer it. Now, when it was you knew it was going to be a crime that you had to account for it, you owned up to it. But you never told the public. You never cleaned it up the way you should have. It's not fair. It's not right. You should have sent the money back. You remember the time I made the comment, Heidi, you went off Steamboat? I said, Ramos came here in sweatshirts, now he's wearing suits. Come on. Come on. There's a lot of corruption, and the corruption's all up here. People say, where's proof? Here's proof right here. This ain't corruption. You took money. My last thing is this attack. We know who started this false story. We know, we heard, I don't know what I vote for, comment, oh no, it went from a physical, it was a verbal attack. There's no verbal attack. There was never a physical attack. You made all this stuff up, Vasquez. You made it all up.
Mr. Belich, please, no personal attacks. Your first
warning. It's not a personal attack. She made up a story. There's nobody to back her up, Heidi. Nobody. The police laugh. They laugh. They actually laugh. Attack. There was no attack. She's like the mayor of Fort Lauderdale. The guy missed the break today and he ran into a crowd of people. Oh, it was a terrorist attack. It was this or that. She's blowing her horn. Come on, you don't do these things. You want to intimidate your public? Attacks. You know what the problem is? You don't know what she votes for. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Wasn't there a third person?
They didn't call you already, did they?
Mr. Mertens, please. Well, I don't know if I can follow that one. Hi, Dr. Robert Burtons. I live at 1400 Hartley Avenue. I'm in your district.
Could you speak a little louder? I'm sorry.
Push. Maybe stand closer.
It should be green. There, you got it?
It's green.
Okay.
I have a bit of a hearing disability, so I don't speak very well. I don't know if I'm going to fit this in 4 minutes, but I'm going to try. You've seen me here before on almost the same issue. It was a noise issue. Last time I had a next-door neighbor, and he was having parties every night. This started at 10 in the morning and went till 4 in the morning, and it took me 2 years of court cases to run up with that guy. And if I don't finish in these 4 minutes, I guess I'll come back next time. This time, the issue that I have is the non-enforcement of the noise ordinances. Now, the biggest noise ordinance I'm thinking about or talking about is going to be these loud vehicles that run around the neighborhoods and just blast you anytime, night or day. Most recently, the other issue that I have, the reason we have this issue is because, and I'm not going to knock down the sheriff, but they're just not enforcing these laws. The laws exist, they're on the books. The first issue I had, it's last week, it was like Thursday, and a week before that, and one of my neighbors had a live band in their backyard. It was loud, it was so loud, and they're over on Normandy. I'm over on Hartley, so I'm already a block away, and I can hear them inside my house with the windows closed, and my neighbors down the street commented they could hear it too. I called the sheriff 3 or 4 times, and the first couple times I remained anonymous, and the last time, and it just didn't stop, just kept going. Last time I said, okay, I'm going to give him my name, and yes, please contact me. The sheriff was a lady, and she says, oh, they can be as loud as they want up until 7 o'clock. And I'm just going, no. And I find myself arguing at that point with the sheriff. And it's like, hey, you should know this law. You should know this is illegal. They're not allowed to do that, day or night. Now, I know I'm not going to hit that minute in a minute and 35. But anyway, I said no. Eventually, I settled with that neighbor. They said, if you got a problem, call us. They gave me the phone number. That's done. Next thing, their neighbor, one house north, they've got a car with a subwoofer in it that you can hear 3 blocks away. Now, sometimes this guy comes up and he parks in his front yard and he blasts it for 20 or 30 minutes. And I've called the sheriff on that one too. And finally, and sometimes I call up and they said, well, did you go over and talk to the neighbor? So I said, okay, I'm going to go over and talk to the neighbor. Anytime you talk about something like this with a neighbor, right away you become the bad guy. So I went over and I tried to talk to this guy, and before I could even say a word, he's out screaming at the top of his lungs, I have the right to play my music out on this road as loud as I want, anytime I want. And I'm going, well, no, you don't. And then as soon as I say that, he's off the hook. I mean, he's off the, he's in a rage. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this yard, leave his presence, go back to my house. And then the next day, I see his car. I hear it first, and he drives past my house. He's never been down my street before. I know all the cars that drive up and down my street with loud boom boxes. All right, I'm out of time, so I guess I'll have to come.
Sir, if you have any paperwork that you'd like to give the clerk's office with anything, with addresses or anything, they can make a copy of anything. If you'd rather go ahead, and my suggestion would be, Mr. Peters, at some point, this is not the only gentleman that's complained about enforcement of noise ordinances over time, and I'd like a clarification who actually enforces the noise ordinance and what, and I know it's difficult, but we've had this throughout a lot of time.
I was going to explain all of that.
Right.
Just, as I said.
That's okay. Well, go ahead. Your public comment, unfortunately, right now is finished. So, Mr. Peters, can we have at the next meeting some clarification as to is it code enforcement? Is it the sheriff's department? And if it is the sheriff's department, they need to have clarification of what they can do and what we do and so forth, because this is nothing new. It's been like this for a lot of years where.
There's a reason.
Well, again, public comment is over right now,
I know.
I'll be back. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Thank you. And if you have, like I said, if you have anything you can leave with the clerks, any addresses or anything you'd like to do, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any more? Okay, public comment is closed. So next is comments on consent agenda items. Is there anyone that signed up for any item, public comment on consent agenda? Okay, we'll move to the consent agenda. Item 11A is a request of approval for the purchase of 12 solar-powered radar feedback signs to inform motorists of their speed on certain identified main thoroughfares within the city. Item B is a request for approval of the task authorization with Mead and Hunt for the engineering, design, and permitting for the Normandy Providence Drainage Improvements Project as outlined in the contract. Item C is request of approval of task authorization for the WSP to perform a hydraulic study to evaluate alternatives to interconnect Waste Plant 6 and Water Plant 1. Water Plant 6 and Water Plant 1, I'm so sorry, in accordance with their agreement with the City of Deltona and RFQ number PW 20-10 for continuing on-call engineering, water and wastewater utility plant engineering services. So those are your 3 items on consent. Commissioners, do we have a motion for these 3 items? Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion to approve consent item in agendas A, B, and C.
Second.
Okay, properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Vice Mayor Bradford for consent items A, B, and C. May we vote, please? And the motion passes 7-0. City Commission special reports and requests. Anyone, commissioners? Commissioner McCool? He's coming close.
That's why there's glass, baby.
I'm so glad that's there. very quickly, I would like to find out, we have the nightmare on Shiprock that I would like for us to get resolution for. I think we all know, we all get emails on that. So we have to do something about that. Second of all, the Lorax project, there's a young lady who is volunteered her time. The Lorax project is bringing trash cans to help with litter around the city, so I would like to email and raise awareness about that, and I will email information to the ACM regarding that and put him in touch with the young lady. I don't know who would head that up. Next of all, I would like to, I understand that the county, Pell's parking, the truck parking has been taken away now, so there is issues with having truck parking. I know that that's public sector or private sector, but I want us to, there's an issue there. I want us to be entertaining how we can help out. We have, believe it or not, a lot of truck drivers in our town with nowhere to park. So since that's been shut down, I would like to start turning the wheels on that. I don't know why the county shut it down. I said I would try to get answers. If anyone knows, I don't know why the county shut it down, but Pell's was told that the county shut it down, if I could get an answer on that. Last thing quickly is that I would like to get a consensus regarding having workshops, a couple of workshops, because we are now also doing, getting in, we have been, but moving forward, I would like for us to have the relationship with developers and builders in this town. I would like for us to talk about our ordinances. I would like to talk about our, what we can do to build better in Deltona. And I had a meeting with someone on Friday who would be willing to help with that. I know that V-Card will come in to talk about, since we're especially been kneecapped with impact fees by the state, and the state is trying to, they're bullying as far as what we can get out of developers. I think that it's incumbent upon us to visit that, to strengthen our position as to what we can do to maximize what it is that we require for good building and good stewardship. So if we could workshop that and talk about that, what it is that we can do to be informed, to get as much as we can that is good for our city, because we are being limited more and more about what Tallahassee says instead of what we say. So I believe it is time to talk about what our powers are and how to use our powers for the good, to take care of our residents and be a good steward of our land. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, just to piggyback, Commissioner McCool, this is the information I have on the truck parking. I've reached out to Councilmember Lowry a 3 weeks ago, and he's still looking into it. He is supposed to bring this up at the county meeting tomorrow, but the reason that was given was that the description of the property, contractor storage yard with no final site plan, and basically the action required is for them to get a final site plan. There's a ton of other information. I can print it out and send it to the city clerk, and everybody could get it if they'd like, if that doesn't violate anything or
Send it
any
to Mr.
interference.
Peters, and then we can all get a copy. I think it would be very interesting if the commission is interested in getting that information.
Okay, I'll go ahead and send this to Mr. Peters, and he can distribute as he would like. You're welcome.
Okay, no more special reports or requests, so we'll go to city attorney comments. City manager.
I'd like to make one update. We are reaching out to the DOT regarding the interchange situations. My understanding, if we would enter into a maintenance agreement, they would provide a certain level of funding, and we would make up the difference. However, to my horror, on Sunday, I guess I just don't drive the interchange that often. When I went through the Saxon interchange twice on Sunday, all the trees are dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears to be intentional. You don't take 20-foot magnolias that are in beautiful shape and have every one of them dying like that unless you are actually putting some type of agent to kill them. So not only are we looking at what kind of agreement, we're also reaching out to find out what's going on. Are they trying to remove trees or what have you? So we will be presenting a report, I'm hoping, the first meeting in July, and maybe as late as the second meeting. But we have started the process of investigating what can happen with regard to the interchanges. But the next time you go through sites and take a look at the trees, it is amazing.
Thank you, sir. All right, commission comments. Commissioner King. Nothing tonight. Commissioner McCool.
Praise the Lord.
Commissioner Ramos.
Yes, real
He's
quick.
got a list.
Have a list here. Well, no, I just want to remind folks, this Thursday at 7 p.m., our community meeting on animal control over at West Crowell. That will be at 7 p.m. This weekend, next weekend, it's going to be a busy weekend also in West Crowell. We got our youth flag football, our youth basketball, and we also have our previously owned treasure sales, and that will be starting at 8 a.m. And one of the other things that's coming to West Crowell, it's called Pijo. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6. It's a combination of aerobautics, piloting, and yoga. So that's it.
Cool. Commissioner Avila Vasquez? Do you have lunch too for the kids?
West Crowell is one of the sites that, yes, anyone under age of 18 can show up and will receive a free meal as well. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say, and I'm surprised, Commissioner King, that you didn't mention it. We both attended the Volusia Sheriff's Office opening of their new training center and tour. And I'll let Mr. King explain what happened there with him. And I also want to answer a question regarding the parks that have not been cleaned. You know, the park on Lombardi is called the Fireman's Park. I have received an email about the bathrooms being dirty, being broken, and no sooner than Parks and Recs replaced the toilet in those parks, a week later, one of them was broken, cracked, and the other one, the toilet seat was missing within 1 week. And I know for a fact that when I drive down that street in the morning, there is the city parked there cleaning the bathrooms every single day. I don't know what we're gonna do to, prevent this from happening, but these things are being taken care of by Parks and Recs. The toilet seats are missing, so I mean, I'm just, letting them know that Parks and Recs have been seen cleaning them. I also want to give a shout out to my niece. She just graduated from Fort Bliss as a sergeant major, so we're very proud of her. And I'm also very happy to hear that judges are watching our meeting. That's interesting. Very interesting. And I think that this gentleman also sent an email about the noises, and I think I forwarded to you, Mr. Peters, about the stuff like this. So I'll just go back and look and see when he sent it to us and when we had discussed it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Commissioner Sosa?
I'm good.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to invite everybody out tomorrow night at 7 p.m. here. We're going to have the District 2 for animal control. Also, something, I don't know if we're doing it or not, but you guys have some really nice flyers online that's been going around Facebook and Instagram and all that. And I know a lot of cities, when they have events like we're having the carnival, they'll make posters, maybe like a 12 by 17 size, and take them to local businesses and let them put them on their doors. Are we distributing anything like that to give out to our local businesses so all the residents know about the carnival coming up? Do we have it, or can we get some?
We'll look into it.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. That's all I have.
Okay, and I just want to say we have a special commission meeting next Monday night instead of a workshop. It's a workshop that can turn into a special commission meeting, correct, Mr. Peters? It's a special commission meeting?
That
Yes.
is correct.
Okay, so next Monday, special commission meeting, and I would announce it then, but I want to announce it also now to talk about the 4th of July. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of great things planned. Look it up. We have flyers out there. We have things on social media. And Vice Mayor, good idea about the posters. I think it's going to be a great several days for our residents and for the kids and everything else. And I just want to reiterate on the noise ordinance, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It just has to be, maybe for the residents, clarified a little more how we work that out and what the parameters are, and maybe just clarify that, and especially with the 4th of July coming up and things going on, maybe we can put a PSA out there, okay? That is it, and we are adjourned.